Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, as usual, the rant and a few disclaimers. So, I'm off today because stress. All the stress, all the time, and finally got to me. I'm like, you know what? No. So that's why you're seeing me here a little bit earlier than usual. Now, what's got my freaking goat today? Just something I want to tell you all I'm getting way tired of. Yes, it's JD versus AH. I'm sorry, but apparently the stands haven't figured out that the court case is over. What I'm getting really tired of, as a neurodiverse person, is this continued individuals, some who are on her side, some who are on Johnny's side, but who continue to sit there. Well, I don't think he's a good person. He's a weird white man, and just start listing his neurodiverse traits. And I've had enough. It's enough. It's enough. Because basically, what you're saying when you say stupid crap like that is the things that make us weird in your eyes. You're alluding that as though it makes us as though we're not good people. Really? Really? So, because on occasion I may have a vocal stem, because I may have a moment, I might have an autistic snap, but I do not harm anything but inanimate objects. Because I may dress differently from you. Yes, even in public, because I don't care anymore. I'm pushing 40. Your opinions mean next to nothing to me. That somehow this makes me a bad person because I don't fit your idea of normal, because we do not fit your idea as normal, that somehow this makes us bad people? I am trying to watch my cursing, but I am very, no, fuck it. Here's my opinion of your opinion. Because you see, I've seen my neurodiverse brothers and sisters out there campaigning for human rights, even when their life is at threat. I've seen them outside the steps of the JRC with their signs. I've seen ADAPT out there participating in what they call civil obedience to make sure that the rights of peoples with disabilities, the few that we do have, stay as they are. I've seen these people also march for the BLM. I've seen them march for trans rights. I've seen them march with the drag queens here in town. I've seen them work at soup kitchens and charities. These individuals show more grit and more heart and more kindness than a lot of neurotypicals out there in the world that you all like to worship. And it's not performance activism, folks. Some of these individuals have been in the trenches for years. Years. Oh, but because we dress different, because we may have a vocal stem while we're stressed talking about a traumatic event, because you don't think we dress in a way that is age appropriate, we're bad people? I'm sorry, but neurotypicals don't hold a monopoly on so-called weird behavior. Okay? You all get into celebrity worship. You insist that your opinion matters on a stranger whom you've never met when it comes towards their lives of which you are not a part of. You will sit there and insist on things like believe all women, no matter what the facts are, no matter what's been proven, no matter what the evidence is. I've seen you all literally riot over things like a soccer game or football. Riot where hundreds of people get hospitalized. I've seen you all bypass the homeless people out there on the street. Whereas me and many of my friends, we always stop. We're not the bad people. Just because you find us uncomfortable to be around. Many of us don't care about appearances anymore. We've had to mask our entire damn lives, our whole lives. We've had to clamp down on who we really are so that you feel comfortable. And you know what? Many of us in my age bracket, we're done. Done. Okay? Let's not be hypocrites here. Let's not sit there and play the game that because a person does something that you do not understand but does no harm to anyone somehow makes us, well, we're just not good people. Let me tell you about so-called good people. The so-called good people that you all looked up to were the same people who made my life hell in high school. You want to know who defended me? The goths. The metalheads. The people that you would sneer at because they were out smoking by the dumpsters. Those people you wrote off. Those individuals who listen to metal, listen to Manson, were far better people than you all have ever showed yourselves to be. They stand up for the little guy. They don't just pass by when they see someone suffering. If they see a person like me being bullied out in the halls, they step up. You all sit there and talk about diversity and inclusion, and within the same breath will start deriding an individual for things you do not understand. Y'all ever watch Bambi? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Figure it out. Because we're tired of masking. We're tired of bending over backwards to appear to be someone you can be comfortable around. Maybe you should get uncomfortable. Maybe it's time somebody took you and stood you in front of a mirror. Now to the disclaimers. Whew. In the description box, folks, you're going to see the link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill, folks. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. Also linked in there is NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding folks in case the JRC actually has the cojones to see through with their threat. Also linked in there is the Ozark's first article in regards to the Agape boarding school, now known as Stone for Help boarding school situation. This is a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens, that has and pending, folks, over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. Sorry, folks, allergies. You have one former staff. One second. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI. You got another, a doctor who's still on the premises with full access up to the boys up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have an attorney general too obsessed with drag queens and defunding libraries to actually do his job, and you got a governor who's just simply put off his nuts. So please, folks, read that article and share it on all your social media. We got the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign as well, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Mastumbo's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, and the ever-present and very self-explanatory Change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, folks, please use your headphones, alright? Should go without saying. Also, this channel is marked not for children for a reason. We speak on dark subjects and do sometimes curse on occasion. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, folks, very obviously, parental supervision is advised, alright? Alright. I'm also going to warn because allergies are kicking my ass. I'm trying not to curse, but I'm in a mood. I'm going to try to calm down, okay? We'll get through this, hopefully. Right? Right. Okay. Trigger warning, we are about to descend into the mad ravings of the lunatic mind known as Dr. Matthew Israel. You're going to hear gaslighting, victim blaming, pseudoscience, and lies, all coming from a man with a massive ego and even larger God complex. So, folks, be prepared for the arrogant amount of egotistical stupid we are about to read. Here goes, right? One study examined a sample of 5 adults with developmental disabilities who had been subjected to an aversive program of electric shock, mechanical restraints, and food deprivation. This study showed that the same individuals could be served in the community with the same elevation of symptoms using only positive behavior supports. This is true. Before we hear his idiocy, what have we been talking about? When we talk about positive behavior supports, we're not talking ABA. We're talking OT. We are talking therapy. We're talking about getting to what's causing the triggers before it goes into the behavior, right? Right? When Dr. Matthew Israel talks about positive only, he's talking about physical punishment adversives that are not a part of the program. What he won't tell you is those programs use other aversives, such as removal of affection. We'll get to that on another day, hopefully when this place is buried into the depths of time where it belongs. The use by the MDRI authors of this study, which was written by clinicians from a program that is a competitor of JRC, is another example of misleading information. Oh, for God's sake, here we go. Doctor, is this person you're calling a competitor of yours actively pursuing patients? No, they're not. They put out the material at doctors' offices the same as others usually do. Okay? You're sitting there acting like they are broadcasting, you should choose us because the other guy tortures people. I mean, granted, it's true, but they're hardly putting infomercials out there. Please sit down. 2 of the 5 students reported on this study who had been transferred from JRC to the May Institute later returned to JRC because of the May Institute could not effectively treat them or keep them safe. Says you. You say, but we keep them safe. From who, JRC? No, Dr. Israel, answer me. What are you keeping them safe from? Torture? No, because that's what you do. Do you keep them safe from bullying? No, because you actively encourage it. Do you keep them from mistreatment by staff? No, because it's literally written into their programs at your school. You sit there and you say, but all the other programs aren't working, so we have to be the only ones who got it right. It's not how any of this works, Karen. Literally not how any of this works. If you have 5 institutions doing ABA and getting it wrong, you know what you have, doctor? 5 institutions getting it wrong. Just because they are doing things incorrectly does not make you, in comparison, automatically right. This is a logical fallacy and you know it. But let's continue. Of the 5 students, Mike proved to be so unmanageable that the Bay Institute had to expel him. Subsequently, he was referred back to JRC where he currently resides. A second student set fire to and burned down one of the May Institute's residences, after which he was transferred to a program in Florida. As for the remaining 3, JRC does not have data on them subsequent to their discharge from the JRC. Oh, isn't that convenient? However, given the outcome with respect to the first 2 students, the study as a whole cannot be trusted. But yours can, right? Your studies can be trusted. After all, you're running them, and the fellow doctors who agree with you are getting paid by you, so that you must just be the most trustworthy of them all. Seriously, doctor. Really? Come on now. Allow me to say it again. Just because you have someone who gets it wrong doesn't make you right. Because what do these institutionalized places often use, doctor? Let's talk honestly now, you and me. What do they use? ABA. What does ABA not do? Get to the root cause that is triggering the behavior. So, am I surprised that this so-called nothing but positive place didn't get results? No, doctor, I'm not, because they used ABA. ABA operates off the false premise that they already know what's causing the behaviors, and they are 100% incorrect. So does it surprise me that another place that also uses ABA, just is not nearly as psycho as your version of it is, didn't get results and that the behaviors continued? No, I'm not. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit, doctor. Because what have I said on this channel as long as the root cause goes and continues to remain to be unaddressed, then when you remove that threat of harm, what's going to happen? Yeah, because the issue's still there. You punishing and torturing them didn't solve the problem. And the fact that they became uncontrollable and worse also doesn't surprise me, doctor. And no, that doesn't mean I'm agreeing with you. You've got a situation where you've got a kid who's having behaviors. We'll just use their word, all right? We'll use their word. As much as it makes me... Okay? They get sent to your hellhole and are tortured for days on end. Your shock device, living in fear. They are then transferred to another program which also uses ABA, but are not going to be using your torture levels. You want to know what remains the same in both scenarios? Neither place addresses the root cause of the behavior. So why would you escalate if the threat is removed? Dr. Israel may ask me. Well, it's very simple, doctor. Now, not only do we have the issue that was never dealt with, we now have psychological trauma on top of it. And depending on the individual, how that trauma can affect that individual can lead to the issue that got this ball rolling in the first place coming out far worse than it ever had before. Because now it's also being informed by the freaking psychological and physical torture that you put that kid through. I know this not just as an individual who's worked in this field, but from my own life. So you can't sit there and say, but because they got it wrong, I've got it right. But that's literally not how any of this works. I also noticed that once again, you absolutely refuse to take any responsibility for the psychological damage you have done to these kids. You will also never admit that the trauma you caused them and the PTSD that resulted could and does, in fact, make the original behavior worse than before. You will never admit fault, doctor, even when it's obvious. So we see him lying through his teeth again. Who's surprised, right? Not me. We see him trying to push off to others what he does in his own four walls. We see him saying, but they couldn't control him. Here's a novel idea. Stop trying to control us. This is a thought I had. You ever think that maybe it's this whole concept of you all trying to force your control down our throats might be part of the problem? Look at your average neurotypical teen, doctor. Eventually they're gonna rebel. You gotta delve deeper than that. You can't condition us into being neurotypical. It's never going to happen. You can work with us so that we will be able to be out there in society and be able to operate by finding out the core issue from which the behavior stems. But I know you just can't be bothered with that. Can't have logic in medicine now, can we, doctor? We're going to close out on that. We don't get very many views on the channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you again here at Spilling Tea. Have a great one.